fake tough guy tried to intimidate Arnold at the bar. Then someone whispered, "That's the Governator." The neon glow of the Iron Horse Saloon spilled out onto the rain-slicked street, painting the wet asphalt in streaks of electric blue and ruby red. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of stale beer, cheap whiskey, and the faint, sweet aroma of desperation. The jukebox blared a classic rock anthem, its bass thumping a steady rhythm against the worn wooden floor. Laughter, loud and boisterous, mingled with the clinking of glasses and the low murmur of conversation. In a dimly lit corner booth, away from the main bar's commotion, a man of formidable build sat quietly, nursing a glass of amber liquid. His shoulders, broad and powerful even in a casual leather jacket, seemed to fill the space. His face, though relaxed and weathered by time, held a familiar, almost iconic quality. He watched the scene unfold with a calm, observant gaze, a faint smile playing on his lips. The relative tranquility of Arnold's corner was abruptly shattered by a loud, obnoxious bellow. A man, his face flushed crimson with alcohol and an inflated sense of self-importance, swaggered over from the bar, weaving slightly on unsteady legs. He was a burly individual, thick-necked and barrel-chested, with a faded tattoo of a skull on his forearm and a leather vest that strained across his considerable gut. He had been loudly boasting about his street-fighting prowess to anyone unfortunate enough to be within earshot, his voice growing louder and more belligerent with each drink. Now his eyes, bloodshot and aggressive, had fixed on Arnold like a predator spotting prey. "Well, well, well," he slurred, planting himself directly in front of Arnold's booth, his meaty hands gripping the edge of the table. "Look what we got here." Some old musclehead, sitting all alone. "You lost, Grandpa? This ain't no retirement home." Arnold slowly lowered his glass, placing it carefully on the scarred wooden table. He looked up at the man, his expression one of mild curiosity rather than annoyance or fear. "I am enjoying my evening," Arnold stated, his voice deep and distinctly accented, each word measured and calm. "And I am exactly where I wish to be." The man, whose name was Brock, took this as a sign of weakness, a challenge to his self-proclaimed dominance. "Oh, a tough guy with an accent, huh?" he sneered, leaning in closer, his breath reeking of stale beer and onions. "I bet those muscles are just for show. Probably spend all day flexing in front of a mirror, don't ya? Well, this is a real bar for real men, not some fancy gym for pretty boys." He then jabbed a thick finger into Arnold's shoulder, a provocative, disrespectful gesture. The air grew thick with the acrid smell of Brock's cologne mixed with alcohol, clashing with the honest scent of leather and aged wood. Arnold's eyes, which had been calm, now held a flicker of something unreadable, a deep, almost ancient patience. He didn't flinch from Brock's jab, nor did he react with anger. He simply sat there, a towering, immovable presence, observing the drunk man's escalating bravado. Brock, emboldened by the lack of immediate reaction, laughed loudly, a harsh, grating sound that cut through the bar's ambient noise. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Or are you just too scared to stand up to a real man?" He turned to the growing cluster of onlookers, who had paused their conversations to watch the unfolding scene. "See this guy? All show, no go, probably can't even throw a punch." He then grabbed Arnold's glass, lifting it mockingly. "Maybe I'll just help myself to your drink, Grandpa. You'll look like you need it." Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Have you ever witnessed someone pick a fight with the wrong person? Brock had no idea the living legend he was provoking, nor the quiet power that resided beneath the calm exterior of the man before him. And if you're wondering what happens next, if this icon of strength will finally respond to such blatant disrespect, or if someone will step in to reveal the truth, make sure you're subscribed to the channel right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because you won't want to miss the shocking moment that's about to unfold. A moment that will leave Brock absolutely speechless and the entire bar in stunned silence. Brock, holding Arnold's glass aloft like a trophy, continued his tirade, oblivious to the growing discomfort of the other patrons and the subtle shift in the atmosphere. You know what your problem is, old man. You think you're special. You think those muscles make you somebody. Well, in here, you're nobody. He then downed Arnold's drink in one gulp, slamming the empty glass back on the table with a loud thud. Arnold, however, remained perfectly still, his gaze unwavering, his eyes now holding a deep, almost amused patience. He didn't speak, but his silence, his sheer presence, began to exert a powerful, almost palpable pressure on the room. The first subtle sign that Brock had made a grave miscalculation wasn't a word or a gesture from Arnold, but the sudden, almost reverent hush that began to fall over the bar. The loud conversations died down, replaced by whispers and furtive glances. A young bartender, polishing a glass, paused mid-wipe, his eyes widening as he looked at Arnold, then at Brock, then back again. An older man, sitting at the bar nursing a whiskey, leaned over to his companion and whispered something urgently, his eyes never leaving Arnold's face. Brock, however, was too caught up in his own belligerence to notice the shift in atmosphere. He was now standing directly over Arnold, his chest puffed out, his fists clenched. "So what are you gonna do about it, huh? You gonna just sit there like a scared little—" His words were abruptly cut off by a sharp, urgent whisper from a woman sitting at a nearby table. She had been watching the scene unfold with growing alarm, and now she grabbed her friend's arm, her voice a hushed, frantic hiss that somehow carried across the now quiet bar. "Oh my God! Brock, shut up! That's Arnold Schwarzenegger! That's the Governator!" The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. The bar, which had been filled with the low hum of conversation and music, fell into an almost complete, stunned silence. The jukebox seemed to fade into the background. The clinking of glasses ceased. Every eye in the room turned to Arnold, then to Brock, whose face was slowly draining of color. The revelation of Arnold's true identity hit Brock like a physical blow. His jaw dropped, his eyes widening in shock and dawning horror as he stared at Arnold's face, now seeing it not as some random old man, but as the iconic visage he had seen on countless movie screens and political posters. The color drained from his face, leaving it a ghostly white. His bravado evaporated like mist in the morning sun, replaced by utter terror. The murmurs from the crowd grew louder, a mix of gasps, hushed exclamations, and a few nervous chuckles. "Holy crap," someone whispered. "It really is him." Brock's confident sneer evaporated, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. He tried to speak, but no words came out, only a choked, strangled sound. Arnold finally spoke, his voice low, a dangerous rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very floor of the bar. "You were saying?" he asked. His eyes, which had been patient, now held a glint of steel and a hint of amusement. "Something about me being nobody?" He then slowly, deliberately stood up from the booth. His full height, his imposing presence seemed to fill the entire corner of the bar. Brock, who moments ago had been looming over Arnold, now found himself staring up at a towering, legendary figure. The sheer, undeniable power radiating from Arnold was palpable, filling the room with an almost electric tension. The bar patrons, who had been holding their breath, collectively exhaled. A few clapped softly, others openly grinned, their faces a mixture of awe and schadenfreude. Brock, meanwhile, looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. He glanced around, meeting the amused, sometimes pitying gazes of the other patrons. His earlier bravado was completely gone, replaced by utter humiliation and fear. He took a stumbling step backward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I was just—" His voice was barely a whisper, cracking with terror. Arnold, meanwhile, maintained his gaze, his focus absolute. His breathing was deep and rhythmic. It was a powerful display of control, not just over Brock, but over the entire situation. He didn't need to shout, didn't need to throw a punch. His presence, his identity, and the silent, undeniable aura of his legendary status spoke volumes. The sheer, effortless power he exuded was palpable, filling the bar with a sense of awe and respect. Brock, utterly defeated, finally managed to stammer. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Schwarzenegger. Governor, I didn't mean any disrespect. I had too much to drink." Arnold slowly, deliberately nodded. "Clearly," he stated, his voice firm but not unkind, "perhaps it is time for you to go home." He then, with a subtle gesture, indicated towards the door. Brock didn't need to be told twice. He turned and practically fled the bar, his earlier swagger completely gone, replaced by a desperate, stumbling retreat. He didn't even look back. Arnold then calmly sat back down in his booth, picking up the empty glass Brock had slammed down. He held it up to the light, examining it with a faint, amused smile. The bartender, a young man who had been watching the entire scene with wide eyes, quickly rushed over. "Mr. Schwarzenegger, sir, I am so sorry about that. Please, let me get you another drink. On the house." Arnold smiled warmly. "That's very kind of you. I will have another. Thank you." The bar slowly began to return to its normal hum, but a new, profound sense of respect and excitement now permeated the air. People whispered excitedly, casting glances at Arnold, some brave enough to raise their glasses in a silent toast. The bartender returned with a fresh drink, placing it carefully on the table. "It's an honor to have you here, sir," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Arnold nodded graciously. "The honor is mine. This is a good bar, good people." The main confrontation, though brief, was a masterclass in quiet authority and the power of reputation. Arnold's calm demeanor, contrasted with Brock's escalating aggression, highlighted his absolute control. When Brock threatened and insulted him, Arnold didn't retaliate with violence. He simply remained calm, allowing the truth of his identity to be revealed by others, instantly diffusing the situation. His technique wasn't brute force, but the undeniable weight of his legendary status. Brock's desperation grew with each passing second, his attempts to assert dominance crumbling under the weight of Arnold's unwavering presence and the shocking revelation of his identity. His initial provocations were met with stoic calm, then a quiet, almost amused patience. The crowd's reactions shifted from mild curiosity to outright shock, and then to a collective sense of satisfaction and awe as Brock's belligerence backfired spectacularly. Arnold's control was evident in his continued stillness even as Brock ranted and physically provoked him. He demonstrated that Brock's words and actions held no power over him, that his purpose in the bar was simply to enjoy his evening, not to engage in a pointless brawl. His superiority wasn't just physical. It was a superiority of character, of calm resolve against chaos and drunken aggression. The climax of the confrontation wasn't a shouted argument or a thrown punch, but the quiet, devastating whisper from the woman at the nearby table. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated truth that instantly shattered Brock's illusion of dominance. The silence that followed was more impactful than any explosion, allowing the full weight of his error to sink in. Arnold then offered a small, almost philosophical observation to the bartender, who lingered nearby, still starstruck. "You know," he said, his voice low and thoughtful, "many people think strength is about how loud you can shout or how much you can intimidate. But true strength," he tapped his chest, "it comes from here, from knowing who you are and not needing to prove it to anyone." The complete defeat of Brock was absolute. He wasn't just asked to leave. He fled in self-imposed exile, his bravado utterly shattered. The change in crowd perception was immediate and profound. The bar patrons, initially hesitant to get involved, now felt a renewed sense of excitement and a quiet, profound respect for the legend in their midst. A small, elderly woman, who had been sitting quietly in a corner, slowly approached Arnold's booth. Her face, wrinkled with age, held a warm smile. "Mr. Schwarzenegger," she said softly, her voice raspy but kind. "Thank you for handling that so gracefully. Some people just need a reminder that respect is earned, not demanded." Arnold smiled back, a genuine, heartfelt expression. "It is my pleasure, madam, and please call me Arnold." Arnold then resumed his quiet evening, the incident seemingly forgotten, yet its impact lingering in the air. The bar slowly returned to its gentle hum, but the atmosphere was subtly changed, imbued with a newfound sense of respect and a quiet understanding of the power that had just been displayed. As he finished his drink and prepared to leave, the moral of the story was clear, echoing in the minds of everyone who had witnessed the scene. Respect isn't taken by force, it's earned by dignity and character. Silent doesn't mean powerless. Sometimes the quietest person carries the greatest strength, a strength that can defuse any situation with just a look, a word, or the simple, undeniable weight of who they are.